Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
We begin tonight in Chemung County. It's now been 2 months since Governor Andrew Cuomo placed the county in an orange zone due to a spike in COVID-19 cases. After weeks of implementing safety measures and seeing those caseloads go down, that designation hasn't changed, and now one county official wants answers. COVID-19 specialist Amanda Decker has the details.
It was 2 months ago, October 23rd, when Governor Andrew Cuomo placed a big portion of Chemung County in the orange cluster zone. These designations were designed for areas where cases were rising quickly and basic mitigation measures didn't seem to be working. Non-essential businesses were forced to close their doors in these areas. Indoor dining and gyms shut down locally, and schools had to go virtual across Chemung County. Many of these businesses remained shuttered until December 11th, when some of them were allowed to reopen under new guidelines set forth by the governor. Now, Chemung County Executive Chris Moss is asking Governor Cuomo for an immediate review of the orange zone designation for Chemung County because it no longer makes sense. After weeks of implementing new safety strategies, our rate of infection has dropped dramatically. Our local hospitals remain at about 55% capacity, meaning almost half the beds are still available. In his letter, Executive Moss points out that our daily average positive COVID-19 cases are now around 115. Compare that to the day the cluster zone was announced. Chemung County had 575 active cases. The county's positivity rate was hovering above 5% in late October, but our rolling average is now at about 2.4%, and that's the lowest in the state. Moss says because the county managed to bring COVID-19 cases down to a manageable level, our orange zone designation should be downgraded to a yellow zone. Now, according to Governor Cuomo's rules that he set forth for these cluster zones, any area placed in a yellow, orange, or red cluster zone should be reevaluated every 2 weeks. Moss says Chemung County is far overdue for that review. Reporting for Big Fox News, I'm COVID-19 specialist Amanda Decker.
It's predicted that 2020 will be the deadliest year in U.S. history, mostly due to the pandemic. The CDC says COVID-19 has accelerated the nation's mortality rate. The release of new data comes as several states report record coronavirus deaths. Eric Shawn has the latest from New York.
There are now more than 320,000 COVID-19 deaths in the U.S. Preliminary data released from the CDC shows the total number of U.S. deaths are on pace to top 3 million for the first time in history. That is mostly due to the coronavirus. 4 states, Indiana, Mississippi, Wisconsin, and West Virginia, reported more COVID-19 deaths on Tuesday than any other day during the pandemic. But help is on the way in the vaccines. Operation Warp Speed is on pace to have roughly 40 million doses of vaccines by the end of December. Despite that, public health officials say people should not let their guard down.
Nothing should really change right now with regard to the public health measures that hopefully we have all already been doing.
Meanwhile, concerns remain over a new coronavirus strain detected in the United Kingdom. The CDC says that strain could already be here in the U.S. Reports say the U.S. government won't put COVID-19 screenings in place for passengers traveling from the U.K. Health experts believe current vaccines will be effective against the new strain.
There may be a day when we do have a variant that doesn't respond to these vaccines, and that's okay too, because that's what happens with seasonal flu.
And as fears over the new strain continue, so do worries about a wave of new COVID-19 infections as millions travel over the Christmas holiday. Public health officials are still issuing strong warnings.
Don't host parties or gatherings at your home or anywhere else with people you don't live with.
AAA estimates about 85 million people will travel over the holidays. In New York, Eric Shawn, Fox News.
Governor Cuomo says the government is not doing enough to prevent a new strain of COVID-19 found in the UK from spreading in the U.S. Cuomo, speaking today, said that the government's lack of action on the issue shows their absence of common sense. The CDC has said this new strain could already be present in the United States, and reports say the U.S. government will not put COVID-19 screenings in place for passengers traveling from the UK. Meanwhile, dozens of other countries around the world have banned incoming flights from the UK to reduce the risk of spreading this new strain.
When did common sense leave government? When did government become so bureaucratic and so apathetic and so slow that basic common sense eludes them? Because that's what this is. 120 countries around the globe. Any official who hears anything, test before they come.
As concerns grow over the new strain of COVID-19, so do worries about a new wave of infections, as millions across the country head out for the Christmas holiday, despite CDC guidance to stay home. As Americans begin receiving the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, the CDC is asking that recipients download an app to help them track any side effects. Cassie Fambro spoke with one physician in Alabama who has gotten the vaccine and is now using that app.
If she were to experience any side effects, she can report them to the CDC through the app VSafe.
I get a text message. It tells me, hey, how are you feeling today? I click a bunch of check boxes, and then I'm helping society by providing data to CDC to let them know how I'm doing after the vaccine.
Dr. Henningsen received her first dose last week and hasn't reported any side effects.
In fact, I just worked out an hour ago. I happen to be off today for the holidays, and I feel fantastic, and I exercised.
While you do need to download and register to use the VSafe app, it keeps your information confidential. It's not just for medical professionals either. As more vaccinations are administered, the CDC hopes more people opt in.
Everybody is encouraged to sign up for the app. It's extremely helpful to scientists and physicians that are working with the scientists to have as much information as possible.
The app is free on any smartphone.
Schools across the country needed to make some adjustments with many more students learning virtually during the pandemic. This was especially true for children with special needs. Matt Kleindienst is in Corning with a look at how one local district has been working to make sure their special needs students succeed.
Good evening. Representatives from the Corning Painted Post School District say the challenge to provide the best care for students with special needs has opened up the door to new opportunities going forward and forged better relationship with their families.
It really has taken sort of a collective effort, for everybody to kind of work together to pull this off.
As the Corning Painted Post School District developed their hybrid learning model, administrators, teachers, and parents worked together to ensure disabled students were given necessary services for the year. Due to various needs of students, the school district worked to make school services as individualized as possible.
We've had to have, close to 900 individualized conversations with families to figure out what would be the most appropriate way to deliver those services.
Some students receive general education services alongside their peers. Some get additional virtual therapy services. And some students that Yvette LeBaron works with receive in-person services up to 4 to 5 days a week. The changes have allowed LeBaron and other teachers to get more familiar with families as they got more involved with their child's education.
We text, we class tag, we email, we call, we see each other on the computer, and we've got to know siblings and pets.
Jen Batson credits families for their increased involvement, saying their input will greatly benefit the district going forward.
Without them, we couldn't be doing what we're doing, and we know that this is very challenging.
With more masks being worn and increased cleaning of toys and books, the structure of in-person class has changed for Yvette's students. But she says they've done great with the changes and take them in stride.
So it looks different, but the children really haven't missed a beat. They go with it.
Reporting from Corning, Matt Kleindienst, Big Fox, WYDC.
A food drive to benefit the Corning Community Food Pantry is going on now. That drive is happening at the Crystal City VFW along Baker Street in Corning. They're asking for non-perishable food or monetary donations. Mary Caruso of the Corning Food Pantry says those donations will go a long way to help residents in need.
A food drive like this, where anyone can donate, is going to be greatly helpful for all of us, especially those clients that are coming to us because of, they're having issues with making ends meet because of the holidays, because of, loss of wages, loss of jobs even. So this will prove to be very helpful.
Masks and social distancing are required when dropping off donations. That drive will continue through January 6th. Americans may be getting one less package this holiday season. President Trump is casting doubt on the stimulus bill just passed by Congress. John Lawrence has more.
Less than 24 hours after Congress passed the $900 billion COVID-19 relief package, a pothole appears at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple.
President Donald Trump also says he wants Congress to rid the legislation of items he calls wasteful and unnecessary. But some of the president's complaints about provisions, like international funds, are part of the omnibus spending bill, not the COVID relief bill.
He has put Republicans in a bad spot who voted for this bill and Americans who are expecting checks, albeit these are not huge checks.
The president's message is getting support from two of his longtime political foes. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tweeted, "At last, the president has agreed to $2,000. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer added, "We're glad to pass more aid Americans need." Sources tell CNN Trump's message is unlikely to kickstart new talks on the measure, which passed with veto-proof majorities and which Trump earlier said he would sign.
When he realizes that they're going to emasculate him by overriding his veto, he's going to sign the legislation. That's my prediction.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Still ahead tonight, the holidays are supposed to be a happy time, but if you're grieving a loss, it can be a time filled with sadness and pain.
It can bring up a lot of feelings. And when we're grieving, we tend to want to avoid. We tend to want to avoid the things that are painful and uncomfortable.
Coming up, 4 ways to cope with grief during this season.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Tonight's Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William & Tarr. Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Kim Walker with your weather update. The potential of flooding will start to increase tomorrow. Those areas shaded in the green, including Steuben County and Chemung County, under a flood watch from noon on Christmas Eve to noon on Christmas Day. The combination of warm air which will cause snow melt and also additional rainfall will add up to a lot of rain and a lot of runoff. So those rivers could rise quite quickly. So if you're prone to flooding, just be prepared for that as we head into the next couple of days. The next storm system will initially bring up very warm air, so all the precipitation will fall as rain, but as colder air moves on the backside of it, we are expecting the white stuff as we head into your Christmas Day. So snow will be possible as we head into Christmas Day. So it looks like it's going to be a white Christmas. Our future radar is showing a few isolate showers possibly early tomorrow morning. This will increase during the day, and it's going to be off and on with occasional heavy rain. It looks like moderate to heavy rain could be possible around 6 o'clock in Corning, Elmira, and also in Bath. But then notice at around midnight on Friday, this purple that's showing up, that's going to be the wintry mix, a transition from the warmer air to the colder air. And so as that low moves to the northeast, it will drag colder air in. So it looks like places from Ithaca to Sayre, we're going to see a wintry mix. And then around 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday, some snow moving in. And we're going to see some snow showers that could bring some about half an inch to about an inch across much of our viewing area. But overall, it looks like this activity will start to wane as we head into the latter part of your Christmas Day. So it looks like it's going to be a very cold day at that, with those winds picking up as well. Rainfall amounts anywhere between about 1.25 inches in Corning to Bath, and maybe about 1.5 inches possible near Elmira. So I'm calling it about 1 inch to about 1.75 inches across much of our viewing area. So a lot of rain, and in addition to that, there's going to be some snow melt. Temperatures tonight dropping down into the mid-30s, highs tomorrow around 52 degrees in Corning as well as in Bath, and that's why all the precipitation will fall as rain. 49 degrees in Perkinsville, and we are going to see periods of heavy rain as well. Those temperatures will take a dive on Christmas Day. Highs only around 38 degrees with the possibility of snow showers. Drier conditions over the weekend. That cold air will stick around with highs only around 26 degrees on your Saturday. It is going to be breezy as well. And it looks like not much of an improvement as we head into next week. There is the possibility of a wintry mix, maybe a few showers on Monday with a high around 38 degrees, and then we drop back down into the 20s on Tuesday.
Now to a story that's nothing short of a miracle. Deputies in Florida saved a 10-month-old girl who nearly drowned in her family's pool. When they arrived, she had no pulse. Lauren St. Germain spoke to one of those deputies who says now that little girl is happy, smiling, and doing just fine.
It was a Saturday in late November.
What do I need to do? Am I going to be able to remember what I was trained, for 25 years?
Sarasota County Deputy Michael Nickerson was the first to arrive at the home. Mom had pulled the baby out of the pool and they were both in the driveway.
I immediately ran up, grabbed the baby, looked around for something to set the baby on so I could start doing chest compressions.
Deputy Tony Eagaville wasn't far behind. They immediately began CPR, the longest either had ever performed it. The baby eventually regained consciousness and was intubated in the hospital for more than a week. But now she's back home.
I have 3 kids of my own. I can't imagine. But she's perfectly normal. Mom gave me a huge hug. Said, you're my hero. I said, no. I said, me and my partner are.
And while this story ended with that huge hug, tonight, a reminder.
It's accidents, accidents happen every day in cars, and, it's the same thing. It's an accident, it happens, but you got to keep an eye on that kid. Especially a little one that has no shot of survival when they get in the pool.
Now, a new bond this family says will last forever.
Mom said, I want you to be part of her life. She goes, without you guys, she wouldn't be here.
The holidays are supposed to be filled with happiness, but if you're grieving a loss, they can be filled with sadness and pain. Mandy Gaither has 4 ways to cope with grief in today's Health Minute.
It's a time of joy and togetherness, but the holidays can be hard on those who have lost a loved one.
It can bring up a lot of feelings. And when we're grieving, we tend to want to avoid. We tend to want to avoid the things that are painful and uncomfortable. But trying to ignore how we feel generally does more harm than good.
Licensed therapist Jody Baumstein with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta's Strong for Life says those sad feelings will eventually come out. The first way to cope is letting yourself feel.
Creating an environment where you're recognizing that feelings are normal and it's not a sign of weakness. Feelings aren't good or bad, positive or negative. They just are, and we all have them.
If there are holiday celebrations, have a plan.
If there's a quiet place that you can escape to for a couple minutes, or if you yourself as the adult, you need a minute and a break from everyone, who can watch your kids for a couple minutes and give you that space?
Third, honor and celebrate your lost loved one.
Talking about them, thinking about them can actually bring us a lot of comfort and help with our own grieving and healing process.
Finally, do what feels right during the holidays because everyone grieves differently.
We can't take away the loss, but we can decide how we handle it. And we don't need to suffer any more than we need to.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Indoor ice rinks have been temporarily shut down in Minnesota after the governor banned youth sports in an effort to try and slow the spread of the coronavirus. In response, more people are building outdoor rinks in their own backyards. John Lauritsen shows us some of these impressive DIY projects.
If you build it, they will come. That phrase is from a baseball movie, but this year it applies to a winter pastime. It's what happens when you put up a hockey rink in your backyard, like the Dahlbecks did in Buffalo.
Some neighbors come down and we play scrimmages, like 3-on-3, 4-on-4.
With boards, a liner, water, and an assist from Mother Nature. Kids in this neighborhood are making up for lost ice time. When the arenas do open again, they hope to be a step ahead.
You could build one for anywhere from $250 to $700. It's fun. Makes it worth all the hard work.
A record number of Minnesotans are discovering that for the very first time, including WCCO anchor Heather Brown and her family. They are rink rookies, and they're finding out that the rinks allow kids to burn off energy while allowing parents to get creative with lights and even Zambonis. This backyard rink in Maple Grove is one of the largest ones around. In fact, there's talk of having men's hockey league games here when restrictions are lifted. That's Bryce Ferguson's goal, anyway.
I think it's about 115 by 60 are the full dimensions of the rink, so it's perfect sheet for 3-on-3, and you know, these kids could skate all day on it.
During distance learning, it's been an outlet for his kids.
Sometimes our friends come over and we get to skate with them, and then it gets funner.
The Fergusons inherited this rink from the previous homeowner, who even put LED lights in the ice. A chance to highlight what's great about Minnesota winters.
Absolutely worth it, every penny. I loved it so much that it was important for me to pass it on to the next generation.
A new study finds people who use fitness trackers walk about an extra mile a day. Researchers looked at dozens of studies comparing the exercise activity of about 7,500 people with and without a tracking device or phone app. Overall, people walked an average of nearly 2,000 more steps, or about a mile, if they did use a tracking app. The study authors say doctors might want to consider prescribing such trackers for patients looking to get in better shape. That study was published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine. Tesla CEO Elon Musk says at one point he tried to sell his company to Apple. Musk tweeted that he reached out to Apple CEO Tim Cook during the early days of the Model 3 program, but he says Cook refused to take the meeting. Apple did not immediately respond for comment. That claim comes after a report that Apple is planning to introduce a new mass-market battery technology. An incredible demolition brought down 3 huge smokestacks in an operation so big it could be seen from space. Jeremy Roth has today's Take a Look at This.
There is nothing like a good demolition video, and let me tell you, friends, this one is a doozy. Aerial drones captured these spectacular images as explosions took down 3 massive smokestacks in northern Arizona. They were part of the Navajo Generating Station, the largest coal plant in the West. The resulting massive plume of smoke was so big it was able to be seen by satellites in space. The power plant stopped operating in November of 2019. Since then, contractors have worked for most of the year to decommission it. It culminated with this fitting, firepower-fueled end that locals were able to marvel at from a safe distance. Speaking of safe distances, Ford Motor Company wants to make sure you're distancing safely this holiday season, so naturally they came up with an ugly Christmas sweater. Let me explain. The Safe Distance Christmas jumper projects the shape of a Christmas tree around you, creating a safe zone visible to others. It works using small projectors hidden inside the heinous-looking sweater, which unfortunately is only a prototype at this point. And if you think that's the weirdest business holiday cross-promotional concept thingy you'll see today, think again. Chicken chain KFC just announced they've helped design a cutting-edge game console, because that's a thing we needed. The bucket-shaped KF console is loaded with top-level components and can run a 4K display. But wait, there's more! It also has a built-in drawer for keeping your chicken warm and crispy while you play. Because in the year 2020, nothing makes sense anymore. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. A feathery orphan in Colorado is getting some help to make it through the winter. The gosling was abandoned by her family, so she couldn't fly south. The bird may not have a family anymore, but she does have a new home. They named her Goosifer, and Joan Maxwell has been caring for her from a distance since she noticed her wings weren't full enough to fly very far. Maxwell says she will care for the goose temporarily, but her effort serves as a reminder. Sometimes all it takes is some plywood and hay to make a difference. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.